Hello everyone. This PowerMax 7500 is a bit of an odd story, and I'll begin here. When I first acquired it, it worked perfectly. There were no issues with it whatsoever, and over time it developed an issue in the power supply where you'd be moving the mouse around and there'd be a squealing noise, which corresponded to the mouse being moved around, or really, if you were to do anything on the computer, it would squeal during processing something. But always when something was happening. It wasn't when it was just sitting there idle. So I suspected it was a bad power supply. Well, a slight backtrack here. I suspected that after the machine would no longer turn on. So I replaced it, bought one for 30 bucks on eBay. This is the replacement, by the way. I have the other one still, which, if it's good, then I'll probably end up selling it. And it looked like it was going to work for a little while, and after about a month of it actually working, it stopped working again. You can press the power button, which is now broken. There's a piece of it right there. The system will turn on, so there's lights and fans and everything, but there's no video, there's no post sounds, nothing. It's just dead, and there's nothing I could really do about it. I've checked everything, unplugged everything, done everything I can, except for, and this is, as you can tell by the title, what I'm probably going to do is clean the board. I'm going to stick it in the sink, wash it with some distilled water and some alcohol, and make sure there's nothing maybe shorting out. I'm not really sure what the issue would be. But I've disconnected literally everything on the board, taken out the battery, done everything I can. No luck. Okay, I've disconnected all the connectors, the ones up here as well, and I've taken out the RAM stick and this little battery holder that was rattling around in there. And now I believe it's just a matter of unscrewing this, which I started to do earlier, but apparently it's very, very, very long. There it goes. And then you press down on these two tabs right here, and it should slide forward. Or maybe not. Ah, okay, I had to pick it up a little bit because I wasn't quite making it over. And there it is. I guess the speaker thing has to come out too. Joy. Oh, and it's screwed in. Oops. Shit, should I just break that? Son of a bitch. Well, I broke the plastic that held that on. It seems to be a common theme with my PowerMax. But I always break the plastic on them. There's the piece right there. At the chip. That's kind of gross. Oh well. Alright, so I said screw taking out that speaker. So I just pulled it out the side, and there it is. There is the motherboard. And apart from just a very little bit of dust, this thing is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. So I don't really know what the hell the issue is. But there it is. So let's go over to the sink and we'll get this thing washed. This board has not been powered on for a very long time. I think it's been about 3 months. And I've even pressed this little, I think it's a PRAM reset or something, just to be 100% sure, and the battery wasn't plugged in anyway. So this thing is void of all electricity, if that's how you'd say it. And even upon looking at it under this better light that I have in here, it still doesn't look bad at all. There's no gunk on it whatsoever. It's almost as if it's brand new. But this is kind of gonna be my last ditch effort because there is nothing else that I can do, that I can think of to get this board working again. So let's pour some distilled water on it. Actually, let's rinse it downwards. So maybe it'll rinse the gunk off there if there is any. And yes, I am going to let this board thoroughly dry before I try to power it on. I probably won't even finish this video for about a week because I'm just going to let it sit for that amount of time. And I do have more distilled water. This is just a rinse. Let's rinse the back of it too. Okay, now I have some more distilled water, and I have used soap on things before. I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but dish soap has worked for me before, and honestly, this board is already dead. There we are, all washed and shiny again. So now it's time for the drying process. It is a very nice day outside, and nobody ever comes to my front step. So I think I'm just going to set this outside for a little while and come out and check it every couple minutes, flip it over, whatnot, make sure it gets very nice and dry, and then I'll set it inside for a day, and then we'll come back to it later. I brought this inside after about an hour after flipping it once because it's really hot outside. It's about 95 right now, and I had this thing in direct sunlight. And, well, I guess it's going to be very dry now, which is good. It's what I wanted, but I didn't want to leave it out there too long and risk something melting or, I don't know. Probably nothing would have happened, but it's dry enough now. I can't see any liquid on it whatsoever. This apparently is not on. Oh, I unplugged it, dumbass. It is now 3 or 4 days later. I'm not really sure how long it's been, actually. And I'm ready to finally test this thing, put it back together, and, well, hopefully it's going to work. So far, I have put the motherboard in. I've just slotted it back in. I haven't screwed it in with the one screw. I've connected all of the power connections and a speaker. So now I have to put some RAM in it. I'm just going to put one stick in that I know is good. So there's that, and I borrowed some VRAM out of the 7300. So we'll put one stick of VRAM in there, like so. Okay, that is definitely in there. And I've got two processors. This one is the faster of the two. It's the Moxspeed G3. Which is a 333 megahertz, and this is a 300 megahertz. It's just called a Mach speed. This one I also know to be working because I just pulled it out of the 7300. So go ahead and slot that right in there. And that looks like everything I need to make this thing boot. So now all we have to do is plug it in, really. So if this does not work, I'm going to be very upset. But also not upset at the same time, if you understand what I mean there. So it's plugged in, I have power, and let's go ahead and try to aim this. If you can kind of see at the bottom of the screen there, the power button's actually broken, but I will aim it the best I can, and hit the power button in 1, 2, 3, go. I missed it. Now. Holy crap, it actually turned on. Alright. I need to... Okay, now I need to hook up a monitor and a hard drive and see if this thing will actually boot into Mac OS. This is pretty awesome, so stay tuned. Here's hoping that it's going to start up once again. I've got a mouse, keyboard, monitor, and hard drive plugged into it now. So we'll give it another shot. Actually, I'll move the tripod over here, and you can see I will power it on. It powers up, golden. Switch the input on my monitor, and we'll take a look at the screen. Excuse the noise right here. Alright. That hard drive does not sound healthy. Wow. I don't think it's trying to load anything right now. I don't have any video. It usually doesn't load and post that fast. Alright, let's shut her down. And try one more time. Well, we've at least got some progress because... Whoops, almost dropped the camera. Okay, there we go. Maybe not. White screen, not white screen. What is going on here? Okay, I've never seen that before. Is it possibly an issue with the video? I'd say, holy hell, okay. It's getting a little weird here. So once again, it sounds like it is loading off of the hard drive, or booting off the hard drive, but now there's no video. Okay, that's progress. So I moved some video RAM around, and now it seems to be working. We have a screen and a moving mouse cursor. I unplugged the hard drive, of course. So I guess we'll shut it back down and plug the hard drive back in. Let's see what happens. I am just completely blown away that it even boots. I was not expecting that. Well, there we go. That's progress. Wow. Wow. So I guess the next step, now that we know it sort of works, is to play with it for a while, test it, and then I'll test out the other processor, because that one is, of course, slightly faster. It's a 333 instead of a 300 megahertz, which isn't much, but I want it. And if this all ends up working well, I'm going to take the parts back out of the 7300, put them in this, and play with it for a little while. Hopefully it continues to work. In the back of my head, I was almost hoping that the 7500 would be dead so that I could use it for parts and sell it, but I'm actually pretty happy it's working, because it's a slightly more capable machine than the 73. And yes, it does always take this long to boot. Ooh, that hard drive does not sound healthy. Yep, that looks exactly like the way I left it. Let's see what it's showing for specs. I'm going to assume it's showing the correct specs. We have 3.6 of RAM, so maybe 60 or 40, yeah, I guess 48 megs. It's got 2 megs of VRAM. There's 333 megahertz. Wait, what? 333? But that's not what I put in there. That's always been a 300. This one's a 333. Okay then. So I wonder what the hell the difference is between the Mach Speed and the Mach Speed G3, because they're both G3s, and apparently they're both 333 megahertz. I wonder what the heck the difference is. Well, that's cool. So I'm going to pause the video right here. I'm going to mess around with this system for a while. I'm going to completely max this thing out, see what it can do. Well, max it out, given the parts that I have. And I'll report back when I have some news on it. Either it'll be dead, or it'll continue working, and all will be well. I did some research and comparison, just for my own knowledge, between the 7300 180 and the 7500 100. The only difference, besides the processor speed that was originally shipped with it, is the system bus speed, which you can kind of see there in the middle. The 7300 is a 45 megahertz, the 7500 is a 50 megahertz. That's the only real difference between the two. The rest of the things that are different are upgrades, like the hard drive. The 7300 shipped with a bigger one than the 75 and a better CD-ROM. But that's it. Those are the only major differences between the motherboards. So it's been an hour or so. I've been messing with this thing, just seeing how it works, and it's working quite well. I've turned it off and turned it back on a couple of times. No issues there. There is an issue when you boot up with the an error with the startup disk, which I think is a false error because of the IDE controller I have in here instead of the SCSI. The disk is fine, I know that for sure, so, you know, I'll just turn that notification off. I logged into AIM, because I haven't done that since like 2010, and all the nostalgia with the noises here, talking to the AOL system message just as a test. Interestingly enough, you can't hit the enter key. Well, the enter key on a Mac is a return key, and you can't hit that to send your message. You have to hit the one down here. But if you hit this one, it just adds more lines, which is alright. Surprisingly, this thing is very responsive. I was not expecting it to be as quick as it was. So we can open up Internet Explorer, it goes right to the internet, goes right to Google. The animation plays just fine. Like, what? This is IE5. So surprised. Just search for PowerMax 70. Oh. Okay. Well. Internet Explorer 5.5 error. So I wonder if that's, yeah, I don't know. Let's reboot and see if it actually boots. Oh, it's one of these mofos. Alright. Hold the power button. That is honestly the first error I've had so far. I don't know if it's because of the hard drive in here, the controller. Wow, holding down the power button's not even doing anything? That's weird. This is, by the way, running macOS 9.04, in case you were interested to know that. This has taken a lot longer than it usually takes to boot. I'm wondering if there is still an issue. All I know is that the 7300 works fine. This is the same, all the same hardware, minus the motherboard. So, if this is giving me so many issues, I am left to believe that the motherboard is the issue. Underneath the processor, there is what's called a CUDA reset switch, I believe. Something with CUDA in its name. It's right here next to this, well, just right under the CPU, really. So if it's unplugged, you hold that down, and I think you hold the power button as well. Also remove the battery, and that will reset things and stuff. I don't really know what it does, but I've had good luck with it before, and I haven't pressed it since I started up the computer. And there it goes. And back over here. Got video once again. I will say, this is more than I had before. It was not consistently giving me video. Okay, so we got farther than we did last time. This is the message that I always get. There is no error with the disc, I promise you. I've tested it many different times, and it's done this with more than one disc. I think it's just an issue with the controller, which leads me to believe that maybe I should find a driver for that controller to see if maybe that will solve some of my issues. But that can be bypassed, and the system starts up normally. Usually. Sometimes. Not a lot, but sometimes. Okay, right now I'm going to move the mouse in circles and then up and down. You'll know when I stop because you'll be able to hear it. Clockwise circle. Counterclockwise circle. Up, down. I'll drag a window around. That does not make it have that sound happen. But when I release and move the mouse around again, there it goes again. It's very possible that there's an issue with some kind of voltage regulator. Oh, alright, hold on here. Sorry about that noise again. That just happened, which is very bizarre. It just kind of faded and gave me those bars. And while the mouse still moves, the system is still locked up. As I was just saying, I think there's an issue with the voltage somewhere in this board, and I don't know enough about that stuff to really troubleshoot or figure it out. It was worth a shot. I got some life out of it, more than I did before, but it's still having a lot of weird issues, especially graphically. And I think the board is just dead at this point, or on its way out anyway. So with that, I'm going to power it off. Maybe. I'm going to hold the power button at least. If it turns off, that is another story. No, it's not turning off. Well, I'm going to rip the cord out of the back of it and say thank you very much for watching. I hope this was at least somewhat entertaining for you. I'm sorry that it was not completely successful, but that is part of the fun of making these videos anyway. As I think I was going to start mentioning, but not sure if I did already, I'm going to post this thing on eBay. I'm going to rip pretty much any good parts out of it, so I'm going to keep my processor and keep the hard drive and the IDE and the USB and the RAM. I'll put, I've got 48 megs of RAM here. I'll throw in there just so somebody can have something to go with it. And, yeah, I'm going to sell it for parts, because at this point, I've messed with it for a long time. It's been sitting, taking up room for an even longer time. And it's time to just get rid of it. Give up on it. Somebody else can have fun with it. But at this point, I'm over it. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Take care, everybody.